Day 3 of rookie minicamp in Cleveland, and Shedeur Sanders just made a very specific statement to everyone paying attention, not with words first, though those came too and we'll get to them, but on the field, in real time, in front of a coaching staff that arrived in Cleveland with zero organizational loyalty to the previous regime and zero reason to protect anyone from what the evaluation actually shows. 80% completions on 11-on-11 reps, chemistry with Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston that looked immediate and real, in a way that forced people who were watching to stop and look twice, and a performance that, when you place it next to where Deshaun Watson is right now, not in that building, not on that field, not building anything with anybody, tells a very clear story about the direction of this quarterback competition. Let me walk you through everything that happened, because the details matter and the full picture is even more significant than the headline number. First, the context. Most young quarterbacks come into rookie minicamp trying to find their footing, absorb the system, manage the nerves, get comfortable with the pace of professional football evaluations. Shedeur Sanders didn't walk onto that field looking for his footing. He walked on like someone who had been rehearsing for this specific moment and arrived prepared to demonstrate exactly what he can do with the opportunity in front of him. Todd Monken gave him 11-on-11 reps on the very first day. And if you understand how head coaches use their most competitive practice settings, you understand that this is not a routine administrative decision. You don't put a young quarterback into full offensive group work on the opening day of minicamp unless you have a specific reason to want to see him operate in that environment under real competitive pressure. Monken wanted to see him, and what he saw was an 80% completion rate from a quarterback who was processing quickly, reading coverage accurately, and executing with the kind of confident precision that tells coaches something meaningful about where a player actually is. The throws themselves deserve real description, because completion percentage is the summary and the actual plays are the substance. There was a specific rep I want to take you through. Shedeur tilted to his right, his eyes already scanning coverage before the ball was fully in his hands. He processed left, identified the open receiver, and pulled the trigger without hesitation. Not a moment of doubt in the release. The ball came out on time and on target with the kind of zip that makes a receiver's job easier rather than forcing him to slow down or adjust his body to compensate for late or imprecise delivery. That is a technically correct throw executed with genuine conviction. It's the throw that tells a coordinator the quarterback has fully internalized the concept rather than still working it out in real time while the defense is already reacting. Then came the deep ball drill, and I want to spend real time on this because Shedeur's arm has been a topic of debate in certain analytical circles for longer than it should have been, and what he showed in that drill is as clear a response as you can deliver to that conversation in a minicamp setting. He dropped back, used his full throwing mechanics, and launched the ball downfield with both the distance and the placement to put it directly into his receiver's hands. The touch, the trajectory, the timing. All of it was exactly what you want to see from a quarterback who is supposed to be able to threaten the full field. This is not a quarterback managing an arm strength limitation. This is a quarterback with genuine deep ball ability who now has receivers in Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston who can actually use it. The combination of a quarterback who can place the deep ball and receivers who can run the routes to create separation on the back end of a defense is a specific kind of offensive threat that Cleveland has not had available to build around in years. The touchdown strike on the left side was the play that put a ribbon on the whole session for me. He leaned forward in the pocket, scanned the entire left side of the field, identified his receiver coming open, and delivered the football directly into his hands in stride, precise enough that the catch was clean and the receiver was already running after it without having to make any body adjustment. Effortless is the word that keeps appearing in my head when I replay it. Not because it was simple, but because a quarterback who has done the preparation work makes complicated things look like they require no effort at all. That's what mastery looks like in its early professional development stages. And it's what Todd Monken was watching with complete professional attention from the sideline. Now let me talk about the chemistry with Concepcion and Boston, because this is the piece I find most analytically significant coming out of this minicamp, and I don't think it's receiving the attention it deserves. Chemistry between a quarterback and his receivers is not a soft concept that lives outside the realm of real evaluation. It is a concrete, observable, developmentally crucial element of offensive construction that takes time and repetitions to build. And when you can see it developing in real time, even in a controlled minicamp environment, that's legitimate information worth examining carefully. What I'm hearing from that field is that the connection Shedeur was establishing with both Concepcion and Boston in real competitive periods was immediate. Not comfortable or familiar yet in the way that only months of work produces, but present in the specific way that tells you the building blocks are there. He was reading their releases, anticipating their cuts, throwing to spots rather than bodies. The specific trust that tells a receiver the quarterback has internalized the route concept well enough to commit to the throw before the separation is fully visible. That's not something you fake in an 11-on-11 period. Either the quarterback has processed the concept deeply enough to trust it, or he hasn't, and the ball placement tells the truth regardless. And here's why all of this should be making Deshaun Watson genuinely uncomfortable, stated plainly. He is not in that building. He is not on that practice field. He is not the person establishing timing with Concepcion and Boston. He is not the one getting repetitions in the helmet camera system Todd Monken installed to study quarterback vision and read progression in real time. Every single rep Shedeur takes with those receivers is a rep Watson isn't taking. Every timing sequence refined, every route concept synced, every connection established between a quarterback and his primary targets, all of that is accumulating on Shedeur's side of the ledger, while Watson's side sits empty. Watson may have the contract and the history. Shedeur Sanders is building the offense, right now, today. And the gap between them in terms of what they're each accumulating inside this new system widens with every practice session that passes. The Todd Monken dimension of this story matters enormously, and I want to give it the attention it deserves, because the coaching change isn't a backdrop to this story, it's central to it. Monken arrived in Cleveland with zero investment in justifying any previous organizational decision. He doesn't owe the Watson contract a starting job. He doesn't owe the narrative around last year's competition any continuation. He owes this organization the best quarterback he can identify through honest evaluation, and he has constructed his evaluation environment with that sole purpose in mind. The helmet cameras he installed on quarterbacks are one of the most revealing details to emerge from this entire minicamp period, and I think they demonstrate something important about his operational philosophy. He is using every available analytical tool to understand how Shedeur sees the football field, studying his eye movement, his read progression, his decision-making sequence before the throw. That is not the investment of a head coach managing a competition. That is the investment of a head coach optimizing a quarterback he has already decided is his guy. You don't build custom analytical infrastructure around a player you're genuinely uncertain about. You build it around the player you're committed to developing into the best possible version of himself. The offense being constructed around Shedeur Sanders has a specific architectural logic that becomes clearer the more pieces come into view. Concepcion's quickness and movement versatility on short and intermediate routes. Boston's size and ability to win contested catches on the boundary and in the red zone. Both of those receiver profiles are specifically valuable for a quarterback whose greatest strengths include accuracy, timing, and the ability to attack tight windows with the ball placement precision that makes contested routes successful. Monken isn't just evaluating talent, he's matching talent to system in a way that creates a genuine organizational conviction about what this offense can become. And Shedeur is the engine it's all being designed around. After practice ended, Shedeur spoke with the media, and what he said was as revealing in its own way as anything he showed on the field. He talked about Monken with the kind of genuine enthusiasm that you cannot manufacture when the cameras roll and the questions come. He said Monken has brought a completely fresh energy to this organization, that the detail, the intensity, the individual investment from the coaching staff in each player's development is something he feels every single day in the meeting rooms, on the field, and in the weight room. When a young quarterback talks about his head coach with that kind of authentic excitement, it tells you something specific about what the relationship looks like from the inside. It's not a player saying the right things for a press conference. It's a player describing a coaching environment that is actually giving him what he needs to grow. And then Shedeur took it somewhere more direct. He addressed the people who have been running negative narratives around him, the segment of the media and public conversation that has spent months finding reasons to doubt him, to question his readiness, to suggest that another quarterback should be ahead of him before he's had a fair competitive chance to demonstrate what he can do. His message was plain. If you actually want the Cleveland Browns to win, you support your players. You don't spend your energy constructing reasons for them to fail. You get behind your quarterback and push forward with him. That message was directed at a specific crowd, and everyone who has been following this situation closely knows exactly which crowd he was talking about. The people who have been more invested in being right about his shortcomings than in watching what he is actually capable of. What I want you to understand about that statement is the specific maturity it reflects, because it would have been easy, and honestly more typical for a young player in his position, to respond to that crowd with either visible frustration or studied indifference. Shedeur did neither. He addressed it directly, made his point with clarity, and moved immediately back to football. That's the emotional regulation of a player who has processed the external environment around him without letting it alter his competitive focus. He doesn't need the negative noise to stop in order to operate. He needs it to stop because he believes in this team and wants everyone around it pushing in the same direction. That's a different kind of leadership statement than most rookies are capable of making in their third day of professional football. The full picture of what Day 3 of rookie minicamp revealed about where this quarterback competition stands is worth stepping back to observe as a complete image rather than just a collection of individual moments. Shedeur Sanders completed 80% of his passes in 11-on-11 work. He showed immediate and real chemistry with the two new receivers who are supposed to be the primary weapons in this offense. He demonstrated a deep ball that silences the arm talent conversation without qualification. He performed under the direct professional observation of a head coach who installed custom analytical tools specifically to understand his development. And then he stood in front of cameras after practice and spoke with the clarity and composure of someone who is not performing confidence but genuinely operating from it. Meanwhile, Deshaun Watson is not in that building. He is not on that field. He is not accumulating any of the developmental currency that a quarterback competition inside a new system requires to actually be competitive. The gap between them in terms of what's being built inside this offense is real. It's widening, and it's being established in the most direct possible way, through the daily work of the player who is present and engaged and throwing darts while the other player watches from somewhere else. This was Shedeur Sanders' day, unambiguously, completely, in a way that the competitive evidence supports, without any need for favorable framing or charitable interpretation. The chemistry is real, the arm talent is real, the coaching investment is real, and the competitive urgency that a player brings when he understands exactly what this moment requires. That is as real as anything that happened on that practice field. There are people who have been waiting a long time for Shedeur Sanders to have the organizational environment his talent deserves. Day 3 of rookie minicamp is the first visible evidence that the waiting is over and the actual work has begun. What that work is already producing should put every doubter on notice and give every believer exactly the confirmation they needed. The quarterback is locked in. The coaching staff is all in. And one perfect throw at a time, this thing is getting built into something real.